This week, on Days of Our Steelers, the prodigal son makes an announcement to the hope-starved citizens of Pittsburgh. Le'Veon Bell has had enough struggling with the sunshine and relaxation in the oasis of Miami. His rap ambitions have been realized with the official release of his EP and desires to return to the football field. He has allegedly chosen his date to return. Week 7. Yes, Week 7. This also coincides with the Steelers' bye week, so it should lead to less wear and tear on his Herculean body. Even as the offensive linemen ponder why he's taking so goddamn long, there may be hope for the Black and Gold Brigade. Well, except for the Steelers' brass. Angry and vengeful at their wayward running back, they may be flirting with the idea of a 2-week roster exemption for Le'Veon, thus potentially robbing him of another 7 figures in salary. Punitive punishments are truly the Steeler way, especially for a bell cow like Le'Veon. Meanwhile, in the diva circles, Antonio Brown is frustrated with the passing attack. He compared it to a spotty Wi-Fi connection. Not like a bad provider, more like that shitty hotel Wi-Fi that is slow as hell and keeps cutting out because it's a dick. Once again, truly a man who understands the real world. The game this week is all but crucial for both teams. The Steelers and Falcons desperately need wins to keep their playoff ambitions in decent health. Despite massive questions that remain for the Black and Gold Brigade, they played the most complete, well-rounded game of the season. They physically dominated the line on both sides of the ball and... Wait, this isn't the right script. It appears I'm looking at the wrong implosion. Time for an audible.
This week on General Hospital, the hopes and ambitions for the Atlanta Falcons season takes a massive turn for the worse and nearly drowns in the Three Rivers. Joining the cast in the hospital ward is their starting defensive tackle, Grady Jarrett. A devastating blow for a defense shot to pieces. In yet another embarrassing affair, the flightless Death Rats unleashed a horrific sickness upon their fanbase and shot themselves in the dick repeatedly. The autopsy to this game reveals the cause of death being, well, everything. A few unnecessary penalties, more drunken play calling by Sarkisian, the offensive line collapsing like the lungs of these Falcons, and that defense. Oh boy, that defense is something special, ain't it? The Falcons' D is a lot like a Fabergé egg. Ornate, delicate, and beautiful. And then some bastard chucked it against the wall, shattering it into a billion pieces and exposing its hollow remains. James Conner bull rushes the carcass and pisses on its ashes. By the way, have another in-game injury to Tack McKinley. Oh yes, Tack, Big Ben saw you, and you cramped up like the defense did. At least Alfred can try to help you out. Oh wait, his ass got third-degree burns by Antonio Brown. Be warmed in this failure by allowing a team with a sketchy pass rush to feast on Matty Ice all game long. The Falcons and their once-hyped season are now on life support, battered and beaten by a series of painful defeats and embarrassments that make 28-3 almost look routine. In a stacked NFC South, Atlanta is the odd ones looking inward. At 1-4, the season is all but finished in name only. What will these sickening birds do to mend the tide? Will Matt Ryan and the offense find ways to bail them out? Oh right, the defense is still wrecked to shit. You're fucked. This failure to succeed with the talent at your disposal will probably cost Dan Quinn his job. Have a nice afterlife on the unemployment line. At least for one day, the drama-laden circus of the Steelers gets to flaunt and ballyhoo about going to the Super Bowl and fancy themselves beating New England. Like the Falcons' playoff hopes, General Hospital will fade to black.
There's nothing like a strong victory. There's no way the Steelers can fuck this up.
Are you motherfucking kidding?
This week, on Days of Our Steelers. They blocked me on Twitter! I didn't even directly tweet or message these people, they just blocked me like a pulling de Castro! How long until their death squads come after me? This week, on Days of Our Steelers, the Diva tries his hardest to improve Wi-Fi connectivity in Florida and on the football field. No stranger to the spotlight, Antonio Brown apparently had an off-season to remember. Not only did his likeness get plastered on the cover of Madden, its curse apparently hit him much earlier than anyone else's. Flashback to a sunny day in April. Antonio Brown is returning to his loft in Florida after more than likely strutting his peacock feathers for the loving cameras. There was something amiss though. He believes he had been robbed of valuable possessions. The prize is stolen, $80,000 and a gun. With all of that money, a safe to hold these items is deemed obsolete in Antonio's eyes. To him, this was like losing a remote, but much more sinister. Antonio has been crossed. There is only one logical explanation. He was set up by apartment security. In an impulsive fit of rage, Brown proceeds to do what most reasonable people do in this situation. Chuck furniture out the window. of a 14th floor balcony. Little did he know the gods of fate were not on his side. The furniture and vases he threw for glory nearly hit a toddler and his grandfather. The poor child was a foot or two away from being directly hit, and now this boy is suffering night terrors and further trauma, anguish that no one deserves. Brown may be pleading his innocence, but he is currently being subpoenaed for 2 lawsuits. One by the landlord, and one by the father of the toddler. The suits allege that Brown was belligerent and yelling at security, further proving how much of a likable guy he is off the field. A spin on the wheel of discipline is in the realm of possibility. Head coach Mike Tomlin again chooses to cover his ears and ignore the noise around him. There is football that needs to be played, but there is one thing he needs to mention: the blatant ref ball that is hurting his team. The bullfrog criticized officials, huffing and puffing that he was pissed at how they were ruining the game. The rules are ridiculous, he says. Unfortunately for him, one thing the NFL does not like is being called out for their bullshit. He was told a fine of $25,000 to the NFL's concussion settlement fund. In this regard, the Ginger Hammer always wins. The hammer was also used to strike a blow for the Indianapolis Colts. Battered by a ridiculous string of injuries, they are forced to settle for a new acquisition: former Steeler Mike Mitchell. Now they will know the horrors of his piss-poor tackling form and a mouth that would make Furby seem like a mute in comparison. Mitchell does have a theory as to why he couldn't get a job: Eric Reid and his social protests during the anthem. No, Mike, it has nothing to do with the glut of veteran safeties on the market or your terrible performance. It's to do with the guy taking a fucking knee. Someone get duct tape so he can shut the fuck up for once. He can learn from Le'Veon Bell in this regard. Despite boasting that he would return on the Steelers' bye week, neither he nor his agent have made contact with the organization. It's probably going to be one of those things where he pops out of a jack-in-the-box and starts a civil war with James Conner just because. In other news, Juju Smith-Schuster gave birth to a beautiful baby boy on the football field. The beginnings of fatherhood are forming. He was last seen carrying his baby on a onesie in the Steelers' locker room. Drama aside, today's matchup is against a team that the Steelers have consistently found joy in beating: the Bungles. Winners of 6 straight against this irrelevant franchise, the Black and Gold Brigade takes the field on a misty Sunday ready to maintain the narrative. Cincinnati, however, has other plans. They are off to a hot start this season, boasting a 4-1 record, and a victory against the Steel City will go a long way to legitimizing them. As no one on either side can make a catch, the affair turns into the gritty physical affair commonplace in these matches. James Conner did more to prove that the Steelers don't really need Le'Veon to have a strong running game. He beat those defenders like he beat cancer. He says that he doesn't want to be known as the guy that beat cancer, but television wants cheap talking points and everyone wants to beat the shit out of cancer. By the way, has anyone mentioned on this broadcast that he beat cancer yet? Another glorious sight is the eternal lineage of Vontaze Burfict, who chose to try and kill Antonio Brown yet again by means of targeting. As the most beloved man of Pittsburgh, Steelers fans cheered as he was repeatedly owned by the tank known as Vance McDonald and Connor. Despite these strong performances, the terrible defense showed its ugly face as Artie Burns was torched like the Reichstag and proved his first-round pedigree. Cincinnati boasted the lead in the skirmish with a minute and change left. This is usually a bad omen for the Bungles, as they have always found unique ways to crumble, but this is a different team. The Escalooser has closed down and victory shall be drank. Little did they know they were fooling themselves. The high-end talent of the Steelers bailed out the team from certain defeat, like they have done many times over the past few years. They did get some help from a grossly inept defense that was eager to bend over and take their domination on all fours. The Bungles once again bungled. As the Peacock struts his feathers again after an easy touchdown, Cincinnati is staring at the status quo. The Bungles are to Pittsburgh as the Steelers are to New England. They cannot beat them. This now marks the 7th straight victory over their doormat with no end in sight. Perhaps they should have tried throwing furniture at Big Ben on the final play instead of blitzing everybody. As they ponder this course of action, the Escalooser is back in business. The Bungles had a statement win in their grasp and let it slip away yet again. The Steelers' ambitions of a Super Bowl are kicked back into overdrive. As they go into the bye week, we can only hope that the drama ends. Who the hell am I kidding? This is going to keep happening all season. At least there is one comforting fact for the Steelers. They are once again ahead of Cleveland in the standings. Like cancer metastasizing throughout the team's body, so are the days of our Steelers. This week, on Days of Our Steelers, a lesson is learned as to why you can't trust hearsay, even if it's reported by reputable news sources. Several weeks ago, the prodigal son Le'Veon Bell boasted to private sources that he would return to the Steelers' home base in Week 7 or the bye week. Despite this boast, the team had heard from neither Bell nor his agent. To the surprise of no one in football circles, Le'Veon has still not returned to the team. Even if a trade is not made, there is a chance that Bell will not return for the season. The impasse continues. Juju Smith-Schuster, however, is an optimist. He believes that he can bring Bell back into the Steel Flock. The Mega Millions is his ticket to Le'Veon's heart. 100 of them to be exact. Like all good plans, it bursts into flame. It does not work. Le'Veon will not get his money to join the team. The running back was not amused. He believes everyone is trying to be Kevin Hart and get a laugh at his expense. No, sir, you just happen to do that to yourself. In terms of comedy, this matchup is looking to be a laugher as they play their beloved doormat in the Cleveland Browns. Throughout the season, the Factory of Sadness has ended their winless streak, but has proceeded to twist the knife in ways that rival Chinese torture techniques. Even for Cleveland standards, this year has been agony for them. In the first quarter, they get somewhat of a reprieve. The Black and Gold Brigade proceeded to remain on their bye week as nobody can tackle and offensive Wi-Fi is region blocked. Despite the chances for the Browns to take a commanding lead in this game, they once again failed to capitalize. The Steelers take momentum back with a few strikes, but they don't put it away as they should. A few key fumbles, turnovers, and more idiocy on a free kick lead to the Browns staying in it.
I mean, come the fuck on. This same exact scenario happened a few years ago. How do you not know a free kick isn't the same thing as a fucking punt? It's a live ball, you worthless sack!
Despite the score sheet being close and playing very sloppy football, Pittsburgh realized that they have talent and led the world to relish in its great pastime. Laughing at the Browns. Yes, even in a series meant to laugh at the Steelers, the Eternal Factory of Sadness manages to take center stage. When you think they can't go lower, they stumble onto a portal to another dimension and dig there. The Browns have been irrelevant and laughable ever since they returned to the league, and it's turning into yet another lost season for them. This was supposed to be your chance to prove yourselves. You had real players. You had real coaches. You still fucked it up. It's almost as if Hugh Jackson should have been fired last season instead of kicking the can. I know everyone's going to bitch about stability, but not when the foundation is built on a swamp and ready to collapse. You guys are going to ruin Baker. Hell, you already are. His college swagger has been sapped from him. He's completely shut to shit. The Browns should be a solid team, all things considered, but this is fucking Cleveland, and they can't have anything nice because they're owned by an inept clown that wants to be Jerry Boy so fucking bad that he's ruining Tennessee's football program as well. Speaking of Hugh Jackson.
Why didn't you call timeouts toward the end of the second quarter there to have time on the clock when you got the ball back? You could have called some timeouts, or at least have time on the clock when...
I don't even recall that situation that you're speaking to, so.
What? Did I hear that correctly? You didn't know you had timeouts at the end of a half? How long have you been a head coach for again? This is a mistake they don't make in Pop Warner, and you admitted your incompetence to the media. This guy is going down as one of the worst head coaches in NFL history. The dude is outmatched and has nothing but excuses for his failures. Looks like it's going to involve more firings because Cleveland is a shit show and Haslam changes philosophies like he changes pants. Would you look at that? Hugh Jackson has finally been fired. Once again, should have happened last year. I'm not congratulating you for something that should have been done over 9 months ago. It doesn't end there either. Todd Haley is also gone. That abrasive asswipe that fancies himself an offensive genius was told to fuck off as well. Eat shit, Haley. You hear that in the distance? That's called karma. Eat a healthy serving of it at Tequila Cowboy. The season is fucked and Cleveland is a joke again. The new man in charge of the helm is Greg Williams? The same Greg Williams from Bountygate. The same Greg Williams that ran the Bills into the ground at the turn of the millennium. He's a head coach again? Yep, season's done. At least their coaching search can be Lincoln Riley? Why the hell would he want to come to this shithole? And don't say Mo Baker, because that's a lazy excuse. Someone please send Jimmy Haslam to prison already. Only then will Browns fans have the potential for peace. Fucking Cleveland making themselves the center of attention again. Go sink into Lake Erie like the Cavs are doing right now. Haslam and Dan Gilbert are birds of a feather. This is supposed to be about the Steelers. Well, they do relish in laughing at the Browns. It works.